Welcome back to another Second Look Hockey podcast. As always, I'm your host, David Leo, and as always, I'm joined with me today with Cristian Ceniti. As you might have noticed, I'm rocking the baby blue. Cristian rocking the regular blue. The Toronto Blue Jays red hot right now, the opposite of blue. Canada Day week. They took down the Yankees in a sweep. I'm rhyming again. Just took down the Angels in a sweep. I went to 2 games this past week. Both of them were wins. I went on Monday, the first game of the Yankee series, and I went Saturday, the second game of the Angels series. Both games were absolutely electric. I would say every single game they've played at home on this win streak has been nothing short of mesmerizing, electric. What other adjectives you got for me there, Cristian? Because I know you've been keeping up to date with them this whole time. You work with with the broadcast for those games. So like, how's it been behind the scenes? Because, you know, we are fans first and foremost, but now you kind of get a peek around the curtain.
It's really cool. It's really, really, really cool. I was invited to that same Monday game. We went with obviously a lot of friends from the past year at school, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't come because I'm working on the game, which is like, it's frustrating. It's also like a privilege at the same time to be like, sorry guys, I can't go to the Jays game because I'm working on the Jays broadcast. So no, it's really cool to work behind the scenes, and it's especially cool when you've got all this winning going on. Like the energy from the stadium does translate to the control room that I sit in, because I have like the feed of just all the audio in the background of a game, right? So I can hear the crowd in between innings when we're doing like seventh inning stretch and everything, and you can tell when the crowd is incredible at a stadium, right? So that Monday game, I'd honestly say probably best crowd of the year. No lie.
I think maybe, if only second to the Canada Day game, the game right after, right?
Yes,
like,
and you know what? Yeah, like that home opener, Canada Day. If we're just doing like game
single
in the
game
season with no other, like there's nothing attached to it, like that you could have predetermined. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did have
it's on the podium.
We had the Andreas Jimenez giveaway night that night, so I don't know if that affected some of the levels of that game, but I think the rivalry with the Yankees.
Is that what you're wearing right now, or actually?
No, I just have my actual Vlad one, nice. But I do have I did. So we didn't get the Jimenez jersey. We were out before, and then trying to make it into the stadium, trying to get the. I think it was like only 15,000 of those things. Like, you kind of needed to line up, especially that day. Packed crowd, like over 40,000 people for sure in the venue. But you know what? I've got a couple other giveaway stuff, so I wasn't too hard pressed to not be able to get that. But I agree with your sentiments on everything there. It really is. I know I've seen a lot of comparisons, and a lot of Jays fans of the younger ilk would say it kind of feels like 2015 all over again. I don't know if I'm there just yet. It is starting to like have the notes of it, I would say. But that 2015 team holds a real special place in my heart, even though that they really, in the grand scheme of things, never won anything. But I think they won the hearts of Blue Jays fans all across Canada more than maybe any other. Like, I wanted to ask this question: what is like the best Toronto-based like sports run that we've had? I think that that's got to be up there with the 2019 Raptors run.
Yeah, like if you're doing the podium, the trifecta for all 3 teams, like just most enjoyable season to watch. And let's keep it to like our lifetimes of like what we've witnessed. Yeah, 2015, I would say you have to put the Raptors championship run number 1 just because it ends in a championship. So that's like a kind of a default. And then 2015 is for sure number 2. And then can you make the argument for a Leafs run again on the podium? And I was going to say it can't be when we go to round 2 for the first time in 18 years, honestly. I honestly don't think it can because of how it ends. I think the most enjoyable season we've seen is 2016-17, where it was enjoyment throughout, even when it ended. So I'd say that's number 3, honestly.
I think that's the only time in our lifetimes maybe that we've seen a playoff loss, round ending loss at home, and the team cheered off the ice instead of booed off the ice. So I think in that instance I'm probably going to agree with you, but regardless, at the end of the day, this Jays team definitely has the makings of what could potentially be another special season for them, right? So we'll keep everybody will probably be updated. If you're watching this, there's a real good chance you probably might be following along to the workings of the MLB as well. There's I would say a high chance, but regardless, we're going to stop with the baseball talk. So the way that we're going to work the next couple of episodes is we're kind of going to go through every single team. We are officially about a week out from the start of NHL free agency season. Most of the big names have already been signed and moved. We are hearing rumblings of some trades in the works. So if over the course of the next 2 weeks we get something big happening, obviously we're going to cover that. But the way that these next 2 weeks will work is that we are going to run through every single team and kind of sum up how they did. And at the end, we're going to give them a team grade. And on that note, I think we can just start right off in the Atlantic, unless you have any other thoughts before we jump in, Christian. Did I miss anything there?
No, I'd say like the only disclaimer is like it is what is today here, July 7th. So these are like July 7 grades in the NHL offseason. And probably by the time we're doing previews in September, not probably, it will be different when we're doing previews in September, right? So that's the caveat, is a lot of these rosters are incomplete. There's a lot of teams with cap space. There's a lot of teams, like you said, Dave, that are trying to make trades. So you got to do a balancing act. You can keep that in mind for teams, right? And maybe give them a benefit of a doubt. But also sometimes you have to look at what they have and say, oh, but what if they don't make a trade? Like for a lot of teams that missed out on a free agent, you might also miss out on your trade target too. And then you're stuck with what you've got. So we'll try and balance that out. But these are July 7 grades for every team. That's all.
For sure. We are officially, I would say, about a week out of NHL, the dead zone, the cottage season, I would say, maybe a week and a half. So yeah, we'll keep monitoring that over the next week. But I think we do have a lot to get to. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start in the Atlantic. Let's kind of go in alphabetical order here. Let's start in Boston. Christian, what have the Boston Bruins done over the past couple of weeks?
A lot of internal stuff, I'd say, are kind of the highlights here. I'd say number one, just in terms of total value for a signing, their biggest deal was Morgan Geekie, who was an RFA, and they signed him to a 6-year deal, $5.5 million for Morgan Geekie. Outside of that, they also kept Henry Jokiharju, who they got at the deadline, 3 times 3, Mason Lohrei, 3.2 times 2. Those are kind of the internal guys. And then in free agency, I think the one that caught a lot of people's attention was Tanner Jeannot. 3.4 times 5 for Tanner Jeannot, who came from LA. Bring back Sean Corrali in a bottom 6 role. Mike Yassaman, who's someone that he's one of those depth guys that me and you have both kind of said, yeah, I like that guy. That's kind of, those are the highlights. And they also made one trade with the Edmonton Oilers. They got Victor Arvidsson, who's on the final year of his deal. He's making $4 million. And it cost them a 5th-round pick. So that's sort of the summary of what they did in the free agent period. And, you know, I do think when we do these grades, sometimes you do have to include, it's not just free agency and trades. I think the draft does matter because for some of these teams, their draft pick from 2025 could factor into the roster. And I don't know if that's a slam dunk in Boston, but being able to say James Higgins is a Boston Bruin, that's something that I don't know was an expectation as we enter the offseason. And that's a win for me. So that, honestly, might be the highlight over all the signings and trades for me. The Morgan Geekie bet, he's a 33-goal scorer. You're betting on him, maybe not to be 33 goals for all of those 6 years, but if he's a 25-plus guy, he's one of your top 2 centers. He had really good chemistry with David Pastrnak. I don't think it's the worst bet. And the other change I should mention here is we went from Joe Sacco as the interim head coach, and you bring in Marco Sturm as a first-time head coach. So It was I wouldn't say a busy offseason for the Boston Bruins. Nothing crazy. Like we said, a lot of internal stuff. I'm giving them a 6 out of 10 because I don't think there was anything egregious from them outside of the Tanner Jeannot contract. So I feel like that's, if you've got some place to start, do you have anything on the Tanner Jeannot deal?
I'm still just trying to figure out what the Boston Bruins are trying to be for the next season, for the next couple seasons. I'm looking at some teams like this team is obviously going for number one for the first overall draft pick here next year for Gavin McKenna, and I think Boston thinks they might have a chance to swing a playoff spot, but I don't know if they have the talent to do that. We also saw an uncharacteristically bad season from Jeremy Swayman, so maybe we're looking for him to rebound a little bit. But even if he rebounds to his old form, can that jump them up from the mid 30 wins that they got and looking absolutely dreadful every time that they took the ice to probably to a playoff spot that's going to be, I would argue, one of the hardest in the league right now to get, especially in the Atlantic. Like, there's just no room in that top three, and even outside of that, the top five, I would say, in the Atlantic.
We had 5 Atlantic teams in the playoffs, right? You have Montreal and Ottawa as well. So you got to take a spot from one of those. They're now incumbents. They're no longer on the come up.
And I would say one of them got drastically better than the other. And I don't think Boston did quite enough to make themselves better. So I'm just wondering, like, I don't know, what do you want to do? So for that reason, I'm probably going to give them like a 4 out of 10 if I'm going to be honest, because then you also give that money, the Tanner Jeannot and the money that they took back from Victor Arvidsson, and all that money could have been used at re-signing, say, like Brad Marchand last summer before you traded, or last year before you traded him. Now, I know things worked out for Brad Marchand, but they really haven't worked out for the Boston Bruins. Glad for him. Maybe not so glad for them, because they tried to lowball him once again, trying to take a hometown discount, and Brad simply said no to that. And you kind of replace that money with Victor Arvidsson, who's been, I think, a little bit lackluster over the past couple seasons, and Tanner Jeannot, who, I don't know if you're trying to bet on him getting back to the 21-goal rookie form that he had, but he hasn't scored more. He hasn't scored in the double digits over the past 3 seasons, like 3 full NHL seasons. So
yeah,
I don't know.
No, we saw Tampa make the same bet, and it didn't work that well for them. And there's cost them a lot more than just money, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I don't love the Tanner Jeannot bet. I do think, I don't know if they're quote-unquote delusional to think they can make the playoffs, but I do think they can't be worse than last year. 28th in the overall standings is what they finished last year. They end up with the 7th pick because of lottery balls going not in their way, right? So that's how they end up with the 7th pick. But I don't know if I can see them in the bottom 6 of the league again. I think that's a little more far-fetched for me. I still don't see them as a playoff team. I think this is a transitional year. And I think if you're going to commit to a transition, like they lowballed Brad Marchand because I don't think they wanted him back and having the status quo on a market value deal, right? And I think they were definitely, like, I think you can have a problem with that. I still think the Boston Bruins, probably for the culture, for everything, they could have definitely benefited from keeping Brad Marchand around. And you make a good point about not giving the money to these other guys and having Brad Marchand. But they rebrand. You're now committing to the transition, and I think they made transition moves. And the Victor Arvidsson one, I think that'll be. I don't think Victor Arvidsson is going to transform the Boston Bruins. I think for what they paid, a 5th-round pick, it's a bet that honestly he does better than last year. Like, can he do worse than last year? Okay, if he does, it costs you only a 5th. If he's better than last year, you're going to flip him because you're not going to be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. It's one of those types of moves. And, yeah, I think it is a transitional year. I think they kind of need some of the youth to bring them to – Like, if they are going to have any hopes chance at getting into a playoff spot, names I'm looking at are like Matthew Poitras, who was injured last year. If you have a fully healthy season of him, do we finally see something out of Fabian Lysell, who right now is on the outside looking in on the roster? How about a Fraser Minton, who looked okay in the couple games he played for the Bruins after the deadline? Does James Higgins make the team out of camp, or does he return to college? Either one is fine, honestly. There's not too much pressure on him to be there right away. But I think those are kind of the names that they're going to need as they transition here. So that's kind of my reason for a 6 out of 10.
Okay, fair enough. I'm still going to stick with my 4 out of 10 just for some of the moves that they made as we transition to Northwest New York. The Buffalo Sabres. North New York. I think they call it like Western New York. I think North is farther.
Yes.
Yeah. But regardless, one
geography, baby.
One professional sports team in Buffalo is having a much better time than the other one playing at the KeyBank Center. The Buffalo Sabres are once again. It seems like 15 years of just constant circular, like just a ring of misery. And they make the deal 2 weeks ago now, I think, for shipping out JJ Peterka, bringing in Michael Kesselring, Josh Doan. Christian, what else have the Sabres done since then that can really inspire any confidence in their fan base?
Yeah, I don't know if you can put confidence in the Buffalo Sabres in the same sentence, but I will give you the rundown of what they did either way. So Ryan McLeod, this is internal here. RFA, he signed for a 4-year deal, $5 million per. He had a pretty good season for the Sabres after getting traded from Edmonton, 50-plus points for them. Jack Quinn, 2-year deal, 3.375 AAV, and then a lot of depth stuff. Justin Danforth, Alex Lyon, Ryan Johnson, Zach Jones from the Rangers, decent bet there, 1 year, $900K. So not a lot on the signing side. Trades, you already mentioned the Peterka deal, which is definitely the highlight so far. You also have a deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I've thrown in here because this is a puzzling one for me. Kind of went under the radar. Buffalo Sabres trade Connor Clifton, who's making 3.333333 for just this year, and a second-round pick. That goes to Pittsburgh, and they get back Isaac Beliveau, who's a 22-year-old defenseman, and Connor Timmins. I think we can leave Connor Timmins outside of any value. There's no value to Connor Timmins. I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about Isaac Beliveau here, but I don't think he was a regular in Pittsburgh's lineup at all. I think he was more of a depth guy with Wilkes-Barre. I don't know if you really needed to attach a second-round pick to the last year of Connor Clifton's deal, which was definitely a bad deal. But it's the last year of that contract, and you have $13 million left in cap space right now. I don't really see that as smart GMing at all.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. And maybe that's out of Kevin Adams' hands because, as we know, ownership for the Buffalo Sabres has been very wishy-washy, and maybe that wasn't a Kevin Adams decision. One other trade I'll mention here, they traded Sam Lafferty back to the Chicago Blackhawks, got a 6th-round pick back. And then the elephant in the room here is the trade that hasn't happened yet. Bowen Byram, who we've been hearing about really since the deadline. And we finally got more news, an update. We can at least move this story forward after what happened yesterday. After Bowen Byram didn't elect for arbitration from a player standpoint, the Buffalo Sabres did as a team yesterday. What does that mean? It basically means that Bowen Byram now gets to select the term of an arbitration deal. He gets to choose between 1 or 2 years. Gotta think that Byram would choose a 2-year deal because that walks him straight to free agency. From a team standpoint, this now makes it so he cannot be offer sheeted. So we get that off the table for Bowen Byram. I still think it's a little bit of mismanagement. I know that Adams has said that the deals were softer, or the offers for Bowen Byram were softer than he wants back. I don't know how those offers get better now if Byram ends up with a deal that walks into free agency. He changed his agent. You want to take a guess at who Bowen Byram's agent is now?
Is it somebody familiar to Leaf fans?
His name rhymes with Farendaris.
Oh.
I think I literally made this joke this month already. But yeah, so he's now a Darren Fair agent. Yeah, Darren Fair's client. Okay, so Darren Ferris has a reputation. A lot of his players go to free agency. So yeah, I don't know how those offers really get better. I think maybe the only way is you have this arbitration deal and Byram has to just come out of the gates flying. Which, I mean, listen, he's a great player. You could maybe do that. It's just, once again, you're putting a lot into Fate's hands here. I don't love how they've handled the Byram stuff, and just on the whole, really, what the Sabres have done. I can't give them anything more than a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement while we watch Bowen Byram make his way over to the Zurich Lions in the Swiss Hockey League, playing under Darren Ferris. Yeah, I mean, I'm more maybe just a little bit more tempted to give them a 5 because at least they didn't do anything so just absolutely egregious with all that cap space that they have going on. And I don't know. I want to be nice to the to the Sabres. Sorry. I don't know. It's going to be another long year in Western New York, and I don't see how any of it gets better, especially shipping out Peterka, potentially shipping out Bowen Byram, and it almost feels like who's next? Which player on this list? Go down the list of guys under the age of 25. Why would any one of them want to be here? Zach Benson. I mean, Tage Thompson's a little bit older. That's the big one that you're looking at. Jack Quinn. Even guys like in the system.
I think Jack Quinn asked for a trade last year, to be honest.
I think he did too.
One, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, even the guys like in the system, like Konsta Helenius, Radim Mirka, that they're 25. The 2025 draft pick, right? Noah Ostland's been in the system for a little bit as well. You lock up Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power to big deals, and even them too. It doesn't look good. I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. I really don't. I don't think anybody knows.
I don't think we have the answer. No. And it is interesting. One name I forgot to put in the system here, we've kind of forgotten about, is Devin Levi. So the Sabres bring in Alex Lyon on a 1.5 AAV deal for 2 years, which it's not a lot. It's also not nothing. And the Sabres don't really strike me as a team who look to pay $1.5 million for a guy who's just in the minors. Mm-hmm. So this is another name that blocks Devin Levi from getting to the NHL here. And maybe he's not ready yet. Maybe we jumped the gun on what he is. But I thought that was interesting as well. Yeah, it's tough offseason. It is incomplete. They could maybe blow our socks off with the Byram deal, but based on everything we heard, I'm not expecting that.
I doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it, especially with the lukewarm reception that they got. And I think that Peterka deal might even look a lot better in hindsight, considering what we might see out of a Bowen Byram deal. So that's
very interesting. Yeah, didn't think about it like that.
So yeah, we'll see, but I'm not holding out any hope. As we move from New York to Michigan, the Detroit Red Wings, I would say, had a bit of a relatively quieter offseason. They did make one big move. I don't know where you wanted to start. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's where we start. But Christian, what has the Yzer plan been up to so far?
Yeah, you mentioned it. We can start with the trade there. I think the highlight of their summer is the John Gibson deal, right? They trade Peter Mrazek, a second rounder, and a fourth round pick, the Anaheim Ducks, and get John Gibson. He's got 2 years left at 6.4 for the 31-year-old. Had a decent season in Anaheim, splitting the net with Lucas Dostal. He now gets that number one spot that he's been looking for. Another trade they made was sending Vladimir Tarasenko to the Minnesota Wild for free. Just wasn't a good fit. Tarasenko was making 4.75. So that's honestly, it's a nice bit of business getting 4.75 off your books. What did they do money-wise, signing-wise? Not too much, like you mentioned. Mason Appleton is a external guy they brought in, $2.9 million on a 2-year deal. Patrick Kane returns at $3 million. Soderblom, RFA, Berggren brought back JVR as a free agent out on a 1x1.
That's
and Jacob Bernard-Docker, who came from the Sabres.
Found the Vladimir Tarasenko replacement right there. Little veteran
JVR?
leader.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
JVR. And for
I,
$3 million less cheaper a season, I guess.
yeah.
I don't
Do
hate
you
it.
remember? Was it 2 or 3 years ago when JVR almost got traded to the Detroit Red Wings, and then something happened? Remember at the deadline?
From
This was the
Philly.
deadline where Bertuzzi moves to the Bruins. Yeah, something happened where JVR did not end up as a Red Wing. There was a report that he was traded there, and then it just didn't happen. I can't remember what specifically, but I remember that happened. Anyway, he's a Red Wing now.
There you go.
So yeah, like not a lot there on the signing side of things. They've still got 12 mil in cap space, and I think Yzerman did mention in his presser that he did want to get more involved. I think on Ehlers, but there just wasn't ever a willingness from the player side of things, so you can't do too much there. Quiet offseason overall. However, I will say this. I think the Gibson bet is one of the smarter bets that Yzerman has made in the Yzer plan so far.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen him make some pretty tough bets. We've seen the blue line be added with Ben Sherrod, Justin Hall, and Jeff Petrie. Two of those names are still there. Petrie is not. But I think this is what I'm starting to see about the Yzer plan. For whatever reason, he decided to dish out this big money to these veterans beforehand. Up front, guys like Kopp and Comfer as well, who got 5+ mil, kind of to be like 2-3 Cs-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have all of these kind of veteran, middling money deals. And it came like really early, because the Red Wings have not been a playoff team. But you look at what I guess they're trying to make their core, and I don't even know if I love it. I'm just seeing quantity. On the roster, like if we're saying who is the Red Wings core here? So it's Larkin, Lucas Raymond, DeBrincat, Marco Kasper had a good season, and you're expecting him to get better. And then on the blue line, it's Mo Seider and Simon Edvinsson, who had a really good season. So that's in the lineup. Now I'll give you some names who aren't in there, but they're going to be making their way. Michael Brandzeg-Nygaard is a guy they drafted a couple years ago in the first round, and he's looked pretty good. Nate Danielson got a taste of the show last year. Axel Sandin Pellikka lit it up at the World Juniors. If you're adding him to the blue line, and now 3 of your names are total blue chippers with Seider, Edvinsson, and Sandin Pellikka, I feel really good. They drafted Carter Bear this year, and they've got not one, they got 2 blue chipper goaltenders in Kosa and Trey Augustine, Sebastian Kosa and Trey Augustine. So I'm starting to see the vision in terms of Yzerman may or may not know how to draft pretty well. I'm starting to see the quantity here. I don't still love a lot of the big deals they've made in the past, but if we're just looking at this season, I don't mind it. He had restraint, didn't sign a lot of these veteran guys this year, and the Gibson deal is pretty smart if you ask me, for a team that should be looking to get better. I'm giving them a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, you laid it out pretty nicely. I do, though, question having Gibson on the books now for the next couple of years. You have Alex Lyon there. No, sorry, not Alex Lyon. Cam Talbot there. I mean, Cam Talbot's already late in his day. I do want to ask, though, what happens to... I feel like Trey Augustine has kind of jumped Sebastian Kosa in terms of the future, basically. So I do want to ask where Kosa ends up, because if you're kind of keep getting pushed down, like further and further down the pipeline, I don't know, unless you have a breakout season and you think, could you potentially maybe see Kosa on the move for something maybe more of need and in the present for them, or maybe something for the future?
I feel like he's more of just a patience guy here. And I think goaltending, we've now seen is kind of a position where I don't know if you can ever really have too much. Mm-hmm. The good thing is, like Trey Augustine, he's gonna be in college this year. And then Kosa's been in Grand Rapids, right? Okay. So they're not going to be fighting for the same spot. This year, Kosa had a 9-11 in the AHL, which, I mean, a 9-11 nowadays is actually pretty good. Didn't go as well in the playoffs. They were out in the first round in 2 games. So, Kosa actually just played the 2 games, and he wasn't great in it. So, yeah, I don't think they have to do anything in a rush there. And the good thing is, like you lined out, Gibson and Talbot. Gibson is on a 2-year term. So listen, if he does great in these 2 years, you talk about another deal with him. Okay, cool. Talbot's probably nearing the end of his career as a 38-year-old on a 1-year deal here. So, or last year of his deal. So like there is a world where the timeline lines up to have one of Kosa and Augustine either with a renewed contract Gibson, or you bring in just whoever's performing better of Kosa and Augustine plus another vet goalie. Like you can make it work. I wouldn't worry too much. I don't think they have to be in a rush there.
Yeah, fair enough.
You have a grade for the Red Wings?
I don't, honestly, probably like I'd say a 6.5. Honestly, but yeah, I'm gonna lean to 6.5.
Yeah.
You laid out everything there pretty well. That was my only question, was what happens to Sebastian Kosa now going forward, but I guess you could live with it. It's probably better to have more generational goaltending talents, I would say, or whatever talents in goal than
we've
none,
seen
right?
like we've seen some blue chip goalies who just like don't end up blue chip by the time they're like they some of them don't even reach the NHL. Like Caden Primo, once upon a time, who got traded for his 7th rounder, he was lauded as like the next one in Montreal at points, right? So
Even
it's
like Mikey
Kosa
DiPietro.
or Augustine might turn in. Yeah, who signs with the Boston Bruins again. Like those are guys who were lauded as so much more than they ended up being so far. So to have more bullets in the chamber, I think is good.
Fair. 6.5. From up north, we're gonna head to down south, South Beach, baby. Current back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, and what more can you say other than I hate you? I genuinely hate how good they're cooking right now.
Can we start with grades? Do you want to start with grade?
Yeah, 15.
Like, is there only one answer?
Yeah, 15 out of 10.
Okay.
Congrats, Bill.
Okay.
You're making everybody look stupid once again.
How the hell did Bill pull off the impossible? Right?
He did.
That's basically it.
He did a "we can and we will," and everybody laughed in his face.
That's a great point. Yes.
And then he
really
did
do a "we can and we will." Yeah. Well, listen, Kyle Dubas did a "we can and we will." We just didn't love the outcome in terms of the numbers, right? We can, then we willed. Bill Zito, we can, then we willed after raising the Stanley Cup, and then signed everyone to deals that were like, "Oh my God, we hate you."
Yeah.
Give some details here. They signed their trio of expiring contracts: Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand, all getting new deals. Bennett first, 8 times 8 after his Conn Smythe season. Aaron Ekblad, 6.1 times 8. Brad Marchand, 5.25 for 6 years as a 37-year-old. A little unheard of. And, I will say this as far as the Brad Marchand contract goes. And just, I can't remember if I mentioned this last episode, but just about tampering in the NHL, okay? And Vegas getting hit with maybe those rumors and whatever. Every team we know does it, but I think we saw that explicitly here. All of the rumors before Brad Marchand's deal came out were 8 times 4 or 9 times 4. Simple math here. Some 8 times 4 is $32 million. What did Brad Marchand basically end up signing for? $32 million.
Yeah.
Like it's no secret there. They just stretched it out over a 6-year deal. That's basically what happened. I don't know what much else to say because they didn't do much else. The only other move really of consequence I've got here is trading Justin Surudiff, who was on their AHL squad. They got a 2nd-round pick and a 6th-round pick back for him. He's a 23-year-old. He was one of the more he's one of the better guys on their AHL squad. Okay, in Charlotte. So and Charlotte goes to the final this year in the AHL. But there was nowhere for him in this lineup. And if you're going to run it back, you don't really need Justin Surudiff here. And you don't need him in the AHL at 23 years old, kind of just, quote-unquote, wasting away. The fact you're able to get a 2nd-round pick for him, though, that's a good deal. That's a really, really good deal.
I've seen proven NHL players go for a lot less than a guy that is basically just a straight AHL player. So, yeah.
And we'll get to the Surudiff side of it, like, when we talk about the Caps, because I have thoughts from their side as well.
Okay.
But you can't say it's a bad deal from the Panthers side, especially as a contending team. You're looking to go 3-peat here. 2nd-round pick has a way more value to teams across the NHL than Justin Surudiff, right? Justin Surudiff goes to a team that likes him. the Capitals. You can't offer Justin Sordif to every other team for their defenseman forward, wherever you want at the deadline. So that was a good way to get some currency there for the Florida Panthers. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. I really don't know what much else to say. There isn't anything really in the system that you expect to really impact this roster. They do still have Mackie Samoskevich as an RFA that they need to sign, and he's not a nobody. He had 31 points for the Panthers in 72 games of the regular season. Fell not out of favor in the playoffs, but they opted for a certain look, and it really started with that Leaf series where they ended up going back to that fourth line. They re-signed Nosek as well to keep that intact. And so Samoskevich, he was just gravy, right? Mm-hmm. They still got him there too, so it's a wealth of riches. Jeff Petrie, we should mention, gets the OEL Nate Schmidt job.
Yep.
So we'll see if he can turn around his career. He's 36. He doesn't really have to turn much around. Just be a number 6 defenseman, and I think Florida will be pretty happy. But yeah, it's an enviable offseason for Bill Zito.
Yeah, and also to mention that they acquired Daniil Tarasov for a 2025 fifth rounder, just to kind of come in relief for Sergei Bobrovsky, who is in his last year of his $8 million deal. That, man, looked pretty brutal the first couple of off seasons after signing, and now could potentially
He was brutal even before he signed, because remember there was the rumors, it's like, he's going to Florida, and he's going to get money.
Yeah.
And he was still in Columbus, and we were like, oh my God, what is Florida doing?
Yeah. Well, at the time, they were not cooking with anything, and then signing that, like in front of the defense that they had as well, like that they put him behind for the first couple of years, and then you slowly watch that defense kind of get built up, and kind of around him, and it's for the amount of money that you spent. Like, there's no money in the world that, like, man, Bobrovsky has been lights out. So I do want to ask.
I will say it's good for the NHL. Yeah, what's up?
I did just want to ask though, like, what does a future Sergei Bobrovsky deal look like? Because it kind of feels like he's done the reverse of what a typical NHL player's like salary looks like, because he starts off winning a couple of Vezina trophies, gets paid, and then wins the Stanley Cup. Like, looks pretty bad.
Yeah,
I would say then gets his Stanley Cups after, and it kind of rounds it to form. So I'm just wondering what that next deal looks like and how affordable it's going to be in South Beach.
I was about to say, though, like, not to be so cynical, but, like, all he has to do is look around at his teammates and say, well, I guess I'm taking a discount. Like, that's going to be, like, I don't know, what is the number? Like,
775.
6 on, like, a 2-year deal? Right? Like, I think if they want it, if they want Bobrovsky back, they'll have Bobrovsky back.
I think so, too.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it, yeah. I was just going to say, like, I think it's good for the NHL that, like, the team going for the three-peat was able to keep their team totally intact. Like, I think that's just good for storyline's sake.
Sure.
I think if they had lost, let's say they had lost 2 of 3 guys, not that it would be an excuse, but some people would bring it up. Like, oh, they didn't do it because they couldn't hold, like, oh, the salary cap, whatever.
Yeah.
No excuses now. You're running it back totally, entirely. That's just fun for storyline's sake.
I guess I'll speak on behalf of a fan of one of their close rivals. I will say, no, I'm not in favor of them keeping all 3 of them intact.
I said for the NHL.
Oh,
okay. Not for, maybe not here. Just at large.
Just as a whole. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So 10 out of 10. Yeah.
10 out of 10. And honestly, we'll jump to the Habs right after this. They might be the
great first here.
What? Yeah, I mean, they're another one too where I have them as, honestly, as a big winner. I'm going to give them, I said 15 out of 10 for Florida, obviously, like, in jest. I'll give Montreal probably a 10 out of 10. At least at minimum a 9.5 out of 10. I think a 10 out of 10.
I'm going 10.
Yeah. I'll be in full agreement with you there. Can you sum up some of what they did over the last couple of weeks?
I mentioned with the Red Wings and their system how it's quantity. It is a quantity of a certain quality, but in Montreal, this offseason was just quality, not too much quantity, right? 2 moves and they're just both moves that I think we both really like. First off, the Noah Dobson move. Trade your 16th and 17th pick in the 2025 draft plus Emil Heineman. You get Noah Dobson. Immediately sign him $9.5 million for the next 8 years. He's 25 years old. You're locking up the prime of his career. Love the deal. Unfortunately, love it. And then Dave, last week I came on here. I pleaded to the St. Louis Blues fans. I put on their hat with their weird logo on a hat because it just doesn't look right. And I said, Blues fans, let's make a deal. I want Zach Bolduc. And the very next day, Zach Bolduc became a Montreal Canadian.
Yeah.
And I'm mad. I'm mad. 1-for-1, Bolduc for Logan Mailloux. Yeah, I want to start with this trade because we've talked a bit of the Dobson stuff. Bolduc's a perfect fit in Montreal. Outside of just being francophone from Quebec, he's got piss and vinegar to him. Mm-hmm. He had a great rookie year where he had mid-30s points, only playing 13 minutes a night. There is upside there. Like, he can be a top 6 guy. I think he could get some reps there this year, and I would not be surprised at all if he's successful in them. For me, it's a perfect ad for Montreal. I'm surprised that, I don't know if surprised is the right word. I think it was, they caught St. Louis in a spot where they are desperate for right-handed young defensemen, and that's what Logan Mailloux is, right? We know offensively he's really gifted, really, really good for Laval. I've also seen a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans warn that Logan Mailloux defensively is not very good. So it is a bet, and I think in this case, I would have preferred the known commodity in Bolduc. The Blues had a surplus at forward. Like, they have so many young forwards. Dylan Holloway, Jake Neighbors, Zach Bolduc beforehand. Dalibor Dvorsky's coming up. They added Jimmy Snuggerud. Like, oh my God, there's so much there. I just wish they got more of a sure thing than Logan Mailloux. That's where I'm at there. But yeah, for Montreal's sake of things, I love both of their deals. I'd give them both individually 10 out of 10 deals. So yeah, and then in free agency, a lot of depth stuff. Dovesh comes back 2 years under $1 million. Kakkonen, Capo Kakkonen as a third stringer, 1.15.
Yeah.
Sammy Blais, 1 year league min. That's about it. They've got negative $5 million in cap space right now because Carey Price will have to go on LTIR. So return that. They've got space still, honestly. Yeah, enviable as well. I'd honestly. Yeah, I don't know which one I'm more enviable of, like which rival. You more annoyed by what Florida did or with Montreal? Because I feel like the Montreal thing is we could have done the Bolduc deal. Yeah. But mind you, with Florida, we could have done the Brad Marchand deal. So I guess there's no good answer.
I think we kind of understood that that the Panthers were somehow gonna cook to Michelin star levels, but I think it was kind of a surprise when Ken Hughes comes in and he cooks probably at the same level as a Bill Zito, and he also earns a Michelin star for this season.
Yeah, he's gotten Michelin stars before, like off-season Michelin stars, and
they haven't always.
They don't all, like, you know what I mean? Sometimes they fall off. By the end of the season, you look at his chef suit, and some of the stars have fallen off that you put there before, right? So. Like, I think of New Hook. Like, I liked that deal when it happened. I thought that was a good bet. It's okay. Patrick Laine, they didn't trade much for him, but he didn't look great in the playoffs for them. Well, it's still an unfinished story there. Kirby Dach, looked like a pretty good bet, but the guy can't stay healthy.
That one's tough just because of injuries, right? Yeah, no, 100%. Like, maybe it is a little bit more smoke and mirrors, but the moves that he's made this year, I would say, are less smoke and mirrors and more ready.
I don't see them blowing up in his face. Yeah.
Ready to heat and eat, basically, right?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, like, listen, as a Leaf fan, I'm also not like we'll get to Toronto as well. We're still in a bit more, maybe a little bit of an enviable position, but looking around at some of the other teams in the division, and you're like, you see how some of them are moving and how they're cooking, and it's like, yeah, there's teams that are now hot on their heels in for a division in years past where it was like 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would say there's 4 teams where it was like locked in the top, and you knew which way those, at least three of them, are going to finish out.
The other guys that were like basically in a different division. Like
Yeah,
it was like you're in the Atlantic
A,
right?
A, Atlantic B.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, there still is a couple of teams in Atlantic B. If I'm gonna be arguing,
Atlantic A, we had some expansion franchises, eh?
We did. Yeah. I'll be honest, another team that might have made the jump up to Atlantic A, the Ottawa Senators as well. They, I would say, out of every other team in the Atlantic Division, maybe barring one, had a relatively quiet beginning to their off season as well. They have how much money in space? $4 million in cap space right now.
They got just over 4.
Yeah.
So maybe they do something. I don't really know if they're going to do anything. But in terms of what they did do, we mentioned last episode Jordan Spence for a 3rd and 6th that happened at the draft. Thought that was a really good deal for not too much. And signing-wise, they get back Zetterlund, who they traded for at the deadline, 3 years, $4.275 million. Tyler Clevin on a 2-year deal at 1.6. He ended up showing up pretty well against the Leafs in round 1. Mm-hmm. Claude Giroux took a while to get there, but they do $2 million with some bonuses attached that he can reach. Nick Maddon-Paulo, $875 on a 2-year deal. Arzeller comes in, 1.25. Levi Merrilainen takes the backup spot from Forsberg on a full-time basis now, 1.5 on a 1-year deal. Nick Cousins returns, 825 on a 1-year deal. That's basically it. They're kind of I would say they're a finished product, although, like, if I'm looking at somewhere where it's like, okay, you could add here, it's probably second line left wing. Right now, David Perron is in that spot. I think at David Perron's age, he's great on your third line. I don't love him on my second line. Where they have like the surplus. So I'll even do it this way. Let's go line by line here. Kachuk, Stützle, Batherson. Do you like that as a first line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, can get by with that, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Second line is Perron, Dylan Cousins, Claude Giroux. Mm-hmm. I'd say that's a weak second line.
Yep, that's fair.
Third line. Ridley Grigg, Shane Pinto, Fabian Zetterlund.
Love that.
That's a value third line. Like, that is probably one of the better third lines in the league. This is just how it lines up right now. These lines might not be that way, but if that's your third line, you're doing really good there. And then fourth line is Nick Cousins, Lars Eller, Michael Amadio. Amadio is honestly a plus there on a fourth line. But
I'll be honest, they've got
a decent bottom 6.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with that really on the fourth line. But that second line that's the weak spot. So, like, if you're looking to make another move in Ottawa, that's probably where it is, I would think. And then with Spence on the blue line now, Clevin and Spence maybe as your third pair, Shabbat and Jensen, or Spence can maybe even jump up in the top 4. You can move the puck. Sanderson and Zub, like, it's not looking bad in Ottawa. I don't really think they had to do too much.
And you also
I'm giving them a 7 out of 10.
You also have somebody like Carter Yakimchuk who can then probably come in, maybe not this year, but at some point in the future and slot in nicely, I would say, in the bottom 6 to start, and who knows how.
Even if he's like a part-timer this year, where it's like he's the 7, where he's coming in for guys' injury, or maybe giving like a Nick Jensen the night off, right, so that he's not playing a full season. Mm-hmm. And there's also not, like, you look at it, there's not even a pressure, like, they don't need Yakimchuk in the lineup this year.
Yeah.
Right? They can probably be totally fine without him there. I'm honestly going to upgrade here off the dome. I'm going to go from 7 out of 10. I'll give them an 8 out of 10. Didn't have to do much. It looks about right. You can add at second line wing, and they've got the money to do it. So maybe that happens by the end of this offseason.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with. I was coming in with a 6.5 to 7. I'm gonna stick with a 7, and that verdict is subject to go up or down, depending on a potential deal that they might have.
All of our verdicts are
100%. No, 110%. But I do like the moves. I don't mind when a team is quiet, especially when the past couple of years has been a bit rocky, especially for a team that...
Very loud.
Yeah, especially for a team that's, their first year making it back into the postseason. Some teams might get very gung-ho to try to keep repeating that formula. And that's not to say that I think the Ottawa Senators are going to miss this year. I still think that they have a good chances as any of them to make the playoffs. But I think some teams get a big gung-ho and kind of spoil all the future success that they potentially could have. But I think Ottawa might be doing it the right way, a slow and steady build, and they've been growing, and they look scary once again. As we move from the nation's capital, from Canada's capital, back to Florida, we're gonna head to Tampa Bay. They, I would say, had probably the quietest offseason in the Atlantic for the most part. They made some big signings, or at least re-signings, bringing back Yanni Gourde for 6 years at 2.333 repeating for 6 years. Re-signing Gage Gonsalves for 2 years at 1.2 per. Adding two former Leaf legends, Pontus Holmberg and Nick Abruzzese. Pontus Holmberg on a 2-year deal. Nick Abruzzese, League Min. Adding Jacob Pelletier as well for 3 years at League Min right now. I think that's a deal that's pretty interesting to me. Do you have any thoughts on any of the players that I mentioned?
I think the one that sticks out for us, obviously, is Pontus Holmberg there. We talked before free agency started, just about like, do we need him back? I was like, I can do without him. That's okay. If he ends up getting non-QO'd and signed somewhere else, I'm fine with that. I'll live. And then he signed in Tampa, and I said, no, God damn it, not Tampa. We always do the sniff test, okay? Pontus Holmberg passes the sniff test for Tampa. Like, maybe I can already see him in a Lightning jersey because it already looks so similar to a Leaf jersey. Maybe that's it. But he just seems like he'd work as a Tampa Bay Lightning, right? Like, he's going to be on the fourth. Like, he's not going to do anything crazy in Tampa. But he'll be part of the formula, and I think he's going to do well there. So, yeah, but otherwise, very, very, very quiet. Like, not much to go off of here. I'm giving a 6 out of 10 because it's like you didn't do anything bad, right? Like, you kept restraint. You've got 1.1 million space here, so you're not having to move anyone out. But yeah, it's not really too much to talk about here. What do you think about Pontus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's like the money, odds-on money for a goal in return to Scotiabank Arena for Pontus Holmberg. I don't think there's enough money in the world that
we're taking it. He's gonna score it like it's gonna go off his butt.
Yeah,
he's not putting that in with his stick.
No, you know what,
dude? If we can bet on that, and the odds are like
how it happens. Right. I'll be honest with you. Some of the goals that Pontus Holmberg, if you just threw on a Pontus Holmberg mixtape, you would have people convinced that this guy might be top 10 players of all time. He's got some highlight reel goals with him.
I thought that for sure. Yo, in his first year, 1,000%. Like he had a couple snipes in his first year up with the Leafs. And then you watch if you're watching the rest of the mixtape in between the goals, you're like, oh, he fell again. Oh, where is he going? Oh, he can't handle the puck. So stone hands in front of the net. Love that. Practice.
Yeah. I do also like the bet on Jacob Pelletier. I think he had a pretty unremarkable season after being traded away from Calgary.
Super low risk
to Philly. I mean, dude,
maybe he's something.
I mean, it's League Min for the next 3 years for a guy that could potentially play in your bottom six. Like, I don't hate the bet. But other than that, I mean, when you have a team that's been locked up, when your core's been locked up over the past couple of years and is looking to be locked up for the foreseeable future, I think you're going to have summers like this. I think remains status quo in Tampa. We'll see if the status quo
there is one I should have mentioned. This might change the status quo.
Okay.
Isaac Howard.
Yeah.
Right? Isaac Howard is asked for a trade out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what they do there. Like, if you're Tampa, you only have 1.18 mil. So, are you just asking for futures back? Like, maybe you're doing it Florida style. They trade Justin Surudiff to get back a second. And Isaac Howard's got more pedigree than Justin Surudiff. So, maybe it's a second plus another second, or late first, I think was apparently the asking price that hasn't been met yet. So you either do that, or I guess maybe you're trying to bring in another guy who's also an RFA, not making anything more than 1.1 mil.
Yeah.
Just kind of swapping Isaac Howard's, but like that's the last move that they might have up their sleeve here, which is an interesting one. It will be an interesting one.
Yeah, no, I think for them, if I would say maybe futures would be the best bet, but even still, if you're a team looking to acquire an Isaac Howard, do you want to meet that first round demand that they have when they know that this is a stock
you're
that's
probably not a good team, right?
Yeah, this is a stock that's falling, right? Maybe you try to get it when Tampa needs to absolutely make this deal and get in a bit less. So for right now, I mean, it isn't a problem right now. It's a problem for Tampa. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's all but guaranteed that Isaac Howard's on his way out. So I don't think that there's really whatever you get back for him. I think is whatever you can get back, and I think Tampa might just need to pull the trigger on something sooner rather than later, without risk of seeing their a top tier prospect disappear for nothing, basically. So we'll see. We'll end off the Atlantic Division with our boys, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought that honestly, in total, I think the Leafs have had a pretty decent offseason. Forgot to add my grade for Tampa before. I would say about a 6 out of 10 in their thing, just quickly jumping back. But for the Leafs...
Yeah, same here.
For the Leafs, what do you like, what do you not like about what they did so far this offseason?
Just to summarize, we got the Matthew Knies deal, 7.75 for 6 years for Knies. John Tavares on his discount here, 4.38 on 4-year deal. Steven Lorenz is back, 3-year deal, 1.35. And then a lot of depth stuff. Pizzetta, Dakota Mermis is back. Benoit Olivier Groux, Travis Boyd returns. Vinny Lettieri. Lots of Italian content for us to work with, Dave. Trade-wise, we obviously know about Mitch Marner officially going to Vegas, and we can now no longer dream about Nicholas Roy. He is a Leaf. And we got Matthias Michelli for a third-round pick from Utah. We'll start with, I guess, what we've already talked about and just, once again, reaffirm. Knies, Tavares, awesome deals. We're happy with both of those. Passing grades. And I think it should also be mentioned, too, like, passing grades on the number, and probably, like, more than passing. Like, not flying colors, but sure as hell close to it. The timing. Like, to have that stuff done before July 1, it just makes it such a quieter offseason for Brad Treliving. Like, he just doesn't have to hear about this crap for 2 months. Right?
Not even just him.
It's just done with.
Everybody.
Great stuff from him.
Leafs Nation doesn't have to hear about it.
Yeah, the players. Yeah. So those two we already know about, and then the depth, like, I'm not really giving him there's nothing to really talk about there with Pizzetta or whatever. I think Pizzetta is lucky if he gets into like 20 games. Like, doesn't really do anything for me personally. The Steven Lorenz deal. I'm gonna ask you what do you think about the Steven Lorenz deal? Do you have any thoughts on the Steven Lorenz deal?
I do just like Steve Lorenz just being around the team. The price, I would say, is a little bit. It's expected for him, especially how well he played during the regular season and also into the playoffs as well. So rewarding him for 3 years at 1.335, it's something that I can stomach. I don't think it's like wow, this is a fantastic deal. Like, at the end of the day, he's as fourth lining as the fourth liners come. But I am very thankful that we get to keep the king, one of the princes of Toronto, somebody who is committed to the team and has said so in multiple press conferences, and especially after he resigned, he doubled down on his commitment to staying in the city and loving the city. So, I mean, anybody that can pull at Leaf fans' heartstrings by saying that he wants to be a Toronto Maple Leafs is a good guy in my book. What about you?
I'm right there with you on all the passion points, right? Like I'm all about it, and I'm just surprised that I've seen a bunch of people be like, I'm meh on the Steven Lorentz signing. Not that you have to be like screaming from the rooftops about it, but I just wanted to put out a reminder there that okay, signs for 1.35. There is 3 other guys on this team who make that amount of money: Simon Benoit, Bobby McMahon, and Ryan Reeves. And if you're ranking those 4, Steven Lorentz is definitely number 3 in terms of importance. Okay, 1.35 million will be almost entirely variable on waivers within a year. I just looked up here just to remind myself how waivers works and varying the money. It's league min plus I think it's 375K. I think league min right now is just under 800K. So I think it's about 1.1 million is variable. So if you put Steven Lorentz on waivers today and just kept him with the Marlies, it would only count as 200K on your cap. Okay? And that'll go down every year. Like, no one has to worry about 1.35 mil as the number for him. Like, I've seen too much talk about that's too high. Like, how did he get that 1.35? Like, who were you fighting against? They had to give him that. 1.35 is basically the new $1.1 million deal. So I've seen people like get up in arms, not up in arms, just being like, the Reds deal's meh, that number's too high. I don't think so. I think it's totally fine. I think it was good in the regular season. I have no problems with it.
Considering
I just want to make that point.
Considering that this front office took not even a flyer, like the guy is a Stanley Cup champion, but you signed him to a PTO. You lured him away from South Florida, where he definitely could have won another Stanley Cup last season and got eliminated by the team that he left, right? For him to make the commitment to stay in Toronto, I don't think you could ask for much more. And add, like you said, a reasonable cap hit. Like obviously he's not playing here for free. Like if he could play here for free, I would pose a guess that he might. But the guy's still got to make a living somewhere, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm never gonna get worked up over less than $2 million. I know we have in the past. Don't get me wrong.
And it's just gonna be like Ryan Reeves. Like that was a bad signing from the day it was signed. Okay, we finally waived him this year. Did Ryan Reeves' $200K that stayed on our cap bother you at all? Did you think about it once?
No, not for a sec.
Like, he disappeared, and that's it. It didn't affect anything trade deadline-wise for us. Like, nothing came out of Ryan Reeves being waived. The problem disappeared. If Steven Lorentz ever became a problem, he would disappear, and the deal wouldn't matter. That's all.
And here's the thing.
There was a lot of Steven Lorentz talk. There was some other stuff that...
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think Steven Lorentz is going to become a problem within the next 3 years either.
No,
I don't see it coming. I could be wrong, but
maybe you want him to. No, for the guy who scored 5 game winners in the regular season, like maybe you want him to pot a couple goals in the playoffs. But yeah, okay, like maybe we get that this year. We'll see. Okay, he plays the playoffs.
So moving off of, I think that could be enough Steven Lorentz talk for the both of us, maybe for the next few months. But let's
see
get
you in September, Lorentz. Yeah,
let's get a couple. The Leafs did make a couple of deals, and one of them as big in magnitude as we've seen in recent years, but not something that we weren't expecting to be coming, I would say. Do you wanna get into it? So, I can read out the trade. So obviously we mentioned before, the Leafs get back Nicolas Roy, who's in the 4th of 5 years at $3 million per season for the signing rights of Mitchell Marner, which the Vegas Golden Knights then signed him to 8 years at $12 million per, $96 million guaranteed for Mitchell Marner in Las Vegas. Before that, though, I think where we kind of maybe saw the rumblings of what could be the Mitch Marner trade, I think what really perked my ears up was the Leafs acquiring forward Matias Maccelli in the last year of a 3.425 cap hit deal. So 3 by 3.425 in his last year for a 2027 third round pick, I think, with some conditions on it. I don't have the conditions in front of me.
It depends on if he has 50 points or more. I think it turns into a second, which is like if he's a 50-point player, you'll pay a second.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
It was a good deal. One thing to mention there too is he's still an RFA after this year.
He is. I think only 24 years old.
That's a big win. Only 24. Big win there. I actually want to start with Matias Maccelli. I think this is the more exciting move because we already, like, the Raw thing was we had time to kind of see it coming. We'll get to him as well, though. On Matias Maccelli, though, you watch his highlight pack, his mixtape. You are, like, wowed. Definitely. I'm going to nitpick here, though. And I like the overall, but I'm going to nitpick. Two things I noticed. And I specifically watched a Dmitry Filipovich mixtape that he put together. And I think it actually was before he got to Utah. It was just a mixtape of his 2 seasons in Arizona that were really, really good, right? Scored 50-plus points in both of them. He is a great playmaker, but he does not move his feet as he's playmaking. If you watch a lot of the highlights, it's a lot of, not standstill, but gliding. He has his head up, he's looking for the pass, he's got the puck on his stick, pulls the trigger, and a lot of the, like, there's a lot of good stuff there. But like the elite playmakers in the NHL, they're moving their feet as they make the pass, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Like the prime example, and not to say, oh, why isn't Matias Maccelli Connor McDavid? But yeah, like that's at the highest end. Now, look at a guy like William Nylander. Mitch Marner is a guy who does that as well. So I saw a lot of that with Matias Maccelli, and it reminds me a lot of Max Domi. Like, you can envision in your mind, if you're looking at the Max Domi highlight pack, you saw a lot of stick handle. Finally sauce. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I saw a lot of that. That's what it reminded me of. The other thing I noticed, all forehand. I didn't see a single backhand pass from Matias Maccelli in this, 10-minute mixtape. It was to the point where he'd be on the off wing, and he would specifically turn his body so as not to make a backhand pass and force it on his forehand. I don't love that. That actually, I'll tell you who that reminds me of, because there's a guy I've talked about this before on the Leafs, Morgan Rielly. Never passes on his backhand. He is always on his forehand, and I don't like it.
Even playing on
his predictable.
Even playing on his offside too for that 1 year, I think he got, or a couple of years, he got really exposed on his offside, not being able to play on his strong side. Wasn't great.
And for defense, it matters more. It's a different skill set because it's about the breakout pass, right?
100%.
But with Maccelli, I was just noticing the cycle game and whatever. He would force himself to be in a certain position. So those are two things I noticed, and I think they're big deals. And at the same time, he made it work in Arizona, so you know what's in there. You know that there's a way to success with how he plays. I just think it's going to be very important who he plays with. He needs to find chemistry with someone quickly, and I think that's how this deal ends up great. In that mixtape, it was a lot of saucing to Lawson Krause. Mm-hmm. It's like, he's going to be playing with someone better than Lawson Krause, which is a good thing, right? So I'm still very optimistic about that deal. I love the bet. I didn't think he'd be a Brad Treliving type of player. That's why he wasn't. We talked about him last week before the deal went down, and I'm like, I don't really see it. He doesn't really fit what the Leafs have usually gone for. But I guess with Mitch Marner gone, that's how you end up with Maccelli. Did you have any Maccelli thoughts outside of another Italian name to the mix?
Yeah, the most Italian-sounding Finnish player in the NHL right now. No, honestly, I think it's a bet that you're willing to make, and I think if all goes wrong, the 3.425 that he's making against the cap, I mean, he is going to be an RFA next year, so it's not like he's going to be a free agent. It's a bet where I think
you're saying the opportunity cost. If it doesn't work, you could have used that 3.4 this year for something that might have worked, right?
Yes, sure, but what if not? Like, what if there wasn't anything else on the table and this was the best you got?
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
third round pick is not a lot to like. It's low risk, high reward. I think.
Yeah, and
if he turns into a dud, a third rounder,
if it's less than 50 points, which I would say is probably the benchmark for success right now.
Yeah.
If that ends up becoming a second, yeah, like you said, it's okay, fine, toss it away.
It's well worth the price.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, right. I do just want to see where he slots in the lineup because I've already seen projections of him playing on the first line with Austin Matthews, which, like you mentioned before, is a lot better than playing alongside a Lawson Crouse.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, if he strikes chemistry, I'm praying maybe he strikes some great chemistry on the first line with like Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't work, could you not see Max Domi just going into that position and then Matias Maccelli sliding into where Max Domi is playing currently right now?
Probably. Yeah, that's why I brought like they are very interchangeable. Like you can see them in each other. And once upon a time, Max Domi was a 70-plus guy in Montreal. Yeah. So like we know that when they're on their game, they can be that type of player. But for both of them, it's not consistent, right?
Yeah.
So I still like the bet. I can see a world where it works, and I think too often Leafs have been risk averse. And this was risky, but I think the upside is way better than the downsides here. So I'm really excited for Maccelli.
Does this make Max Domi more expendable, or does it make somebody else on the roster more expendable?
If I'm doing the expendable rankings right now, I'm still putting Kampf and Yarncroke ahead of Domi because I don't see how another team is more willing to take on the Domi deal than Yarncroke or Kampf. And I think Domi still probably has more use to the Leafs in the talent deficit left by Marner than Kampf or Yarncroke. So they're going to have to find a way to coexist, though. Like, you're going to have to make this lineup work in a way where you don't feel like you've duplicated the same player. It's not great.
It does almost feel like Brad Treliving's trying to moneyball his way to make up the Mitch Marner points in the aggregate, and I think hopefully all things, like on all fronts, we succeed. Like he succeeds with those moves, but it is certainly a risk. On that note, do you want to talk a little bit about what Nick Waugh brings to the depth of this team?
Perfect. Like, now that we can talk about him as a Leaf and not imaginary, perfect 3C. Like, he was a important piece as part of the depth for the Vegas Golden Knights when they won a Stanley Cup a couple of years ago, or now 3 years ago. Like $3 million is what you want to pay for a third line center. He's right-handed, which we have not just a talent deficit, we have a right-handed player deficit. It's a William Nylander, Cal Yarncroke. That's it. So now we have Nicholas Rock. Cool. Like, I know people think it doesn't matter. It matters to like GMs and coaches. They will look for that. And what's before I get to this, actually, let's stay on Nick Waugh. The foot speed is what people have been talking about. I don't think you're going to be looking to build a foot speed line on that third line in general, right? Like, and here's the thing: the pieces right now, they don't really fit. Like, I don't know how you make the great third line where Nick Waugh's at center. I don't love Domi, Waugh, and Nick Robertson, Cali. The problem is Bobby McMahon's been more of a left winger, and I think with him, Bobby McMahon is another guy where it's like I can only see him on left wing. Like, I don't know if he can adapt his game as well to right wing. Maybe, but I want them to find a way to have Laud and Waugh on the same line, because I think those two can be part of a great third checking line. I just can't for the life of me figure out who number 3 is on that line. Like, I don't know if I love Yarncroke there.
Is it maybe a aforementioned Matias Maccelli on that line?
He's okay. Like, he's not a liability defensively. It could end up being that. It's not a bad shout, but once again, then he'd be on his right wing, and he's kind of doing the forcing the forehand thing. Like, this is the thing. We have a lot of left wing guys who I don't know can play right wing.
And left.
So either someone has to say
just left-handed guys that, in general,
Yeah, like I think Michelli has played right wing before, but I don't think for his success it's the best spot. So it's an incomplete picture. Do you have anything specific on Nick Waugh before I wanted to mention who we're rumored to be in on?
I do just love the beef. 6'4",
Yeah.
201. That is as prototypical of a Brad Treliving acquisition, and even to an extent like what Craig Berube wants out of his 3 Cs as well. And for a reasonable $3 million for this season and next season. Actually, no. Is it 2 more seasons after this? No, UFA 2027. So
he's got one more. He's got one more year after this. Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I do.
Did you see his media availability or the quotes from it after the trade?
Was he not one of the guys that was like, I grew up as like a Matt Sundin fan? Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Bring me the passion.
So,
passion points there, pal.
Le passion.
Le passion. It's kind of crazy.
That's the nickname.
Kind of crazy that a guy who grew up in that like Quebec market, especially at a time when the Habs were...
you should so be a Habs fan.
Yeah.
It's not even...
Like, that's a Saku Koivu-led Montreal Canadiens team.
I guess those Habs weren't the greatest, but...
I mean, like, the Leafs weren't in the next stratosphere above them either.
No.
They had the passion that time.
Early 2000s, they were, like, perennial playoff team, right?
That's true.
But, like... Yeah, but this is the thing, though, Dave. It's like we know so many Montreal fans born and raised in Toronto. And so it's funny to think that that's what Nicholas Raw was, but just the other way around. Like, it's just funny to think about.
He's the living embodiment of the hockey sweater.
Yeah. We can do some good nicknames with Nick Raw. All right. I love it.
Well,
there's a lot of material there.
I say going forward, it's not Nick Raw, but it is Nicholas Roy.
Yeah, it. You're in Toronto now?
We're Toronto.
Your culture? Gone.
Yeah,
no.
Gone.
That's great. Yeah, no. That's funny.
You did mention potential moves that the Leafs that you're looking for the Leafs to make.
Well, this just dropped on 32 Thoughts yesterday from Elliot Friedman. He said that we are interested in Jack Roslovic, who played last year in Carolina. I think he scored just over 20 goals last year, 30-something points. He's way more scorer than he is playmaker. Had stops in Winnipeg and Columbus beforehand. Right-handed. Undersized, but right-handed. Can play center. I'm telling you, that's what they want. I'd be interested. I could see it. Because I actually wonder what you could do. And this is the thing. I wonder if them being interested in Roslovic has to do with the fact that they want to still try and swing a trade for a top 6 guy. And maybe Roslovic is the backup, which, there's things in motion. But I almost wonder if you had Roslovic, if you could find a way. And this also depends on Nick Robertson. It's like, are you bringing him back too? I almost wonder if you get a full offense bottom 6 line. Like if you go third line hard checking and you could end up with a fourth line that's total offense. Like imagine if you could have Domi, Roslovic, Nick Robertson bless you. We both got the sniffles here. Me and Dave were trying to figure it out. It's like one of us has allergies. Dave for sure has allergies. I don't know if I'm allergies or sick. Who the hell knows? But you get what I'm saying, Dave? Like you could have full checking line, full sheltered offensive line if you had Roslovic and Domi. That's kind of what I'm seeing they might do. But I also wonder if he's like a backup plan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm interested, though. Depending on the number, I could be interested.
I do keep hearing that they're looking for a top 6 player. I'm still not opposed running into the start of the season with just about $5 million to play with and then swinging a deal mid-season, maybe for a player that's kind of fallen out of favor, and taking a bet on a flyer, like a buy low situation, and maximizing.
You do the math around the NHL, like teams have to be bad. Only 16 teams can make the playoffs, which means there's going to be 14 who are there's going to be
16.
The other half, 16, who just they might have to sell. They're not all going to be sellers, but there's going to be some teams that just crap the bed in the first 2 to 3 months and say, well, we thought we were going to be better. Now that we're not, we might as well make some trades here and lose some assets. There could be guys that aren't available right now that are available in November.
Hey, Nashville,
right?
What would it take if you start off bad, and what does Jonathan Marchessault look like in a deal?
I mean, we'll get to Nashville next week, but I'll tell you what, I don't think they're that great.
Yeah, I mean, how much?
Pretend that I never took them as my cup pick last summer.
Yeah, no, we're gonna Men in Black. What's the thing that they use? My God, it starts with an A, I believe.
I don't even know.
I don't know. The thing that wipes your memory. Yeah, never happened.
Yeah.
But
so I'm definitely not opposed to that, Dave. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Yeah,
8 out of 10.
Yeah,
I got to give a grade. 8.
I'll give it an 8 too. But I do think that I think Brad should maybe hold off on it unless it's like an overwhelming, it's you can get you get your top 6 forward. I think if you wait, the longer that you wait, I think it's gonna work out better for.
It could end up be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I think another team maybe just don't go gung ho right now. Save a couple of bullets.
You know what else too? This is totally from a GM perspective. We don't have to be thinking like this, whatever. But Brandon Pridham's probably thinking like this. The longer you wait into the season, the longer you can survive without making this ad.
The more money
you get.
The
less it will take. The more money you get because you just have the cap gets prorated by the time the deadline arrives, right? So, Marchessault making $5.5 million. If you get him in December, that's not really 5.5 on your books for this year. It's more like 4 or 3.75, right? Which means you can then add someone else, right? Yeah. So it's part of the calculus too. But they have to it's not a sure bet that the Leafs make the playoffs this year. They're now going to be in the thick of it. They're going to have to be in a really good spot for any of this to kind of make sense. But 8 out of 10. Curious to see what else they have up their sleeve, if anything at all, this summer.
100%. Probably going to give them the same grade as well as we move over to the Metropolitan Division. Carolina making a couple of big moves. Re-signing Logan Stankoven for 8 years at $6 million per. As well, bringing back Taylor Hall for 3 years at $3.166. And Eric Robinson for 4 years at $1.7. Also, Freddie Anderson, 1 year, $2.75. And also, they won the Nikolai Ehlers sweepstakes, 6 years, $8.5 per year. They also made a big deal with the New York Rangers, getting Keandre Miller in a sign and trade. He's going to be making $7.5 million for the next 8 seasons, giving up Scott Morrow a conditional first-round draft pick next year, and also a second-round pick as well. I believe that first-round pick does it. I also don't have the conditions on this one. Do you remember what that one
the
is?
Condition. It's all right either way. I think that's a lot of the times the first-round picks are. If X doesn't happen, it turns into a 2027 pick, or it might be that Carolina just straight up has the choice. One of those. It doesn't matter too much here, but Carolina, busy summer.
Mm-hmm. Underratedly busy summer as well.
Logan Stankoven, deal of the summer, honestly.
Love it.
It's up there, man. It's not even a free agent signing, but to get Logan Stankoven, who instant success coming over from Dallas in the second Mikko Rantanen deal, was really good for them in the playoffs. You'd have to think he'd had more leverage. He did not have to sign this deal right now. I think the trajectory is still up for him.
Mm-hmm.
That is a absolute win. And it wasn't a bridge deal. It's full term. He's 22 years old, so you'll have him until 30 years old. You bought the best years of Logan Stankoven at a phenomenal price. That, I really do think it might be the deal of the year there. I'm very surprised they still have $10 million in cap space. After adding Nikolai Ehlers, but they do, and after giving Keandre Miller 7.5.
7.5, yep.
It's a very interesting cap outlook that they have. They can still do so much more. We know they wanted to do more with Mitch Marner, right?
Yeah.
If you could, and I wasn't big on the Nikolai Ehlers as a Leaf target. I wasn't big on him. 6 years, 8.5 is okay. Like I think 8.5 is still it's not nothing. And he's not a playoff performer, and we know that Carolina needs to improve most there. He is such a prototypical Carolina forward, though. Like you can see it working so well with their formula,
Yeah.
but he doesn't give them a different look. On the whole, though, like what do you think? We heard that like Carolina might have been one of the biggest offers out there for Mitch Marner. Let's say that number was
14.
13 and a half. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's say 14 or 13 and a half, doesn't matter. Mitch Marner at that number, Logan Stankoven and Nikolai Ehlers combined at that number. Not that Stankoven was an add to this roster, but having those two numbers combined, giving you roughly what you would have got Mitch for, I think that's a win. That is a really good win. It's a good consolation prize. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, on the Nick Ehlers front, we do talk down on him as being not a playoff performer, but this past playoffs, 5 goals, 7 points in only 8 games played after missing the first couple games of the playoffs due to injury. That is the big question for Nick Ehlers, though. He's missed a lot.
Maybe he's turned a corner. Like,
yeah,
oh yeah, health-wise.
Health-wise, he's missed a lot of games. A couple of years ago, missed 36 games. Last year, 13. But even before before that, he was missing like half a year a couple of times.
Yeah. He plays full out. Like he's always bringing the pace, right? That's kind of why. Not that this is why I was apprehensive. Like from a Leaf perspective, is Mitch Marner doesn't miss games.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to replace Mitch Marner, you need the guy to be there, and Nick Ehlers you couldn't count on for that. So
for sure.
For Carolina though, it's an all right bet. Like I can get behind it, because of the fit. The Keandre Miller one. Surprising that he got the full 8-year term. Like that is another one. That is a bet by Carolina, and they did not give up nothing. Like a first is nothing, obviously. A second is something. And Scott Morrow was one of their top prospects in their system. He didn't have a great playoffs. Didn't at all. But he's not nothing, and he's a right shot as well. So like that's a risky move, and if I'm being honest, I prefer the New York side. It's a lot to get back, especially coming off a not great Keandre Miller season. It's one thing if he was coming off of the year before, but that wasn't the case. So
yeah, maybe getting that number reduced after a pretty bad year would have been a lot better. Yeah. But I also don't hate the bet because we've seen defensemen in the past go into that Carolina system and look awful in one spot. I
can't name you.
I look at Shane Goss's
Carolina defenseman who's looked bad.
Yeah. I look at Shane Goss's bear, who's had his whole career basically, I would say, rejuvenated playing on the that Carolina back end. So maybe you're hoping for a big bounce back from Keandre Miller, but you are also giving up a lot of dough and a lot of term for that, especially when you have a guy like Alexander Nikishin, who's probably coming up sooner rather than later.
He'll be there full time, I bet.
Yeah. I would put that bet down too as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't absolutely love it for Carolina, but I don't hate it either. I'm more in the middle.
Yeah. I'll mention as well, Bradley Nadeau, phenomenal season in the AHL. If you add him to the mix too, they've already got so many young guys. Like Jackson Blake was one of the stars this year. He's probably going to get in this season as well. It's a really, really efficient system that Eric Tulsky's running right now, and the only inefficiency I can see is that second line center where you have Kasperi Kotkaniemi. I just don't know who's going to want him for you to upgrade there. So that's the one weakness. That's the spot. 8 out of 10 on the whole, though, for me.
7 for me. I like it. Gonna head to we're gonna head to Ohio now. Columbus Blue Jackets making a couple of big deals. They re-signed Ivan Provorov for 7 years at $8.5 per. Re-signed Dante Fabro as well, 4 years, $4.125 per, and bringing back Dmitry Voronkov for 2 years at $4.175. They also swung a big deal, or a deal. They swung a deal. I don't know if it's that big in the grand scheme of things, but they received Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood from the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Gavin Brindley, a 2025 third rounder, and a 2027 second rounder with conditions. Also losing $7.7 million in cap space in the process. They still have $16 million to work with, though, so that is quite the big chunk of change. What do you think about
it's
the moves?
A lot of change there. I want to start with the trade because this doesn't happen as often, but it was one of those deals where you see the notification and you think, oh, maybe the insider got the picks on the wrong side. I'm surprised that they had to give up a second and third to get Charlie Coyle, but more specifically Miles Wood, who makes 2.5 for the next 3 years. So, yeah, I don't love that. And it is part of what you mentioned. They got so much cap space, I think they kind of didn't know what to do with it. The Coyle bet is fine. That's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's it's a lot to give up for a cap dump. That's all. I do like Isaac Lundestrom. He's a depth guy who I do like. I think he's a great bottom six center. Voronkov had a good number. He had a great rookie season. Fabrolino was so successful after coming over by waivers from Nashville. It's a tough look for Nashville. They've had a couple of those with like Eli Tolvanen in the past too. Ivan Provorov though is definitely like it sticks out like a sore thumb. If we just did deal of the summer with Logan Stankoven, I think Provorov is definitely.
He's in contention.
It's right there, man. It might be the worst. I think, he might be the loser, honestly.
I don't think he's a loser because I think they were runners up. Just made quite a bag.
He's the winner, brother. Yeah. We know they were runners up for Dobson. It's out of your control in a sense if the player didn't want to come there. But I don't love the Provorov deal. It's a really big number for a guy who, I don't know, he's not incredible offensively or defensively at this age. You know, he had a lot of promise to him, but you saw him for a year in Columbus, and he was kind of like maybe he's a 3/4, and you're paying him 2, leaning on 1 money. So it's not great. Still on the whole, like what they're building. They've got really good depth at forward. And it's at least 6 NHL defensemen on the blue line. Denton Matechuk can probably take a big step for them as well. Like you kind of want to knock Provorov down the depth chart, but at the same time, it's like you're paying a guy $8.5 million. He kind of needs to be somewhat high on it. So that's kind of the balance they have there. Some names in the system though: Dave's guy, Luca Del Bel Belu's boy, Caden Lindstrom, who had not much of a season because of injury, and they drafted Jackson Smith. Don't really think we see Lindstrom or Smith in the lineup. Maybe Delbo Beluz gets in some more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him a 5 out of 10. There's 2 deals there that I didn't love: the trade and the Provorov deal. So they're still on the whole looking like they're on the upswing, but specifically for the moves, I think we kind of saw what Don Liddell looks like when he doesn't have Tulski and some of the more micromanaging guys behind him.
Yeah, no, 100%. Probably going to go with the same grade, even though I do really like the Dmitry Voronkov signing, making, it's only for 2 years, but it is a very reasonable.
Stays an RFA after, so that's another big one. Like, huge. That matters, right? You didn't walk him.
Very huge. Yeah, so I would say if they probably had two dud deals, I think the Provorov one is, especially for a guy who quite literally asked out. Like, he was the odd man out on a team that was, still kind of, they were fighting with the loss of one of their leaders in Johnny Gaudreau last summer. He was still the odd man out on that team. It just never felt like there was a fit for him there. I basically wrote him off as just out of town. I think that if I'm not mistaken, there was apparently deals at last trade deadline, or there was at least some interest. I don't know why you had to sign him to a long-term deal like that. It's I guess
it's the disappointment of missing out on some bigger names.
Exactly. Missing out on Noah Dobson shouldn't be the catalyst for you to sign Ivan Provorov, who's much older and a much worse defenseman, I would say, or at least a substantially worse defenseman.
And not right-handed.
And also not right-handed. Yeah, it's just, and almost at the same money. Like it's not like you also got a good deal for Ivan Provorov. Maybe we're not sitting here if you got something a little bit more fair.
That's the thing is like Gavrikov is probably like you probably want Gavrikov over Provorov, and one guy made 8.5 and one made 7.
Yeah,
take a guess at which is which.
And it's not the one that you have on your team. So yeah, it doesn't look good. So 2 duds, 2 wins, 5.5. We'll split it right down the middle as we head to the New Jersey Devils. Next on our list, they re-signed Jake Allen for 5 years at $1.8 million per season. Yeah, very strange deal, but I think probably going to work out for them. I think that's what a bet that they have there.
It's such a small number that you don't even care about the term anymore.
100%. And you also re-sign Cody Glass, if I'm not mistaken, right, on a 2-year, $2.5 million.
2.5 times 2.
You also add Connor Brown for 4 years at $3 million per, and Evgeny Dadonov at 1x1. Artemi Grichuk as well, $9.25 for this year. They also made a deal early in June, sending Erik Haula back to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Jeremy Hansel and a 2025 4th-round pick. What is Tom Fitzgerald cooking up in Jersey right now, Christian?
He kind of just put some bread in the toaster, a little bit of butter, like not much. He's going really light on breakfast this morning. Like, it's nothing crazy here, right? And that's not usually the case in New Jersey. We've seen some really blockbuster deals over the years from Tom Fitzgerald. They have 6.9 in cap space, so maybe they can do something else at some point. They're another team where on the second line you have Palat, Hischier, Stefan Nason right now. It's you want to knock one or maybe both of those guys down the depth chart. So I don't love it. There's not a lot to work with here. You have Anton Silyev in the system for the blue line, even though it's a pretty good blue line. We've heard about maybe Dougie Hamilton being out there. I don't really know if there's a rush to do anything like that personally. They feel like a team that, like we mentioned with the Leafs, are going to wait into the season, and I think that's when their big move is coming. And we know that they could have been so much better last year had they had full health late in the season. So patient approach from Fitzgerald here. 5 out of 10 because there's not a lot to work with. The Brown deal is okay. I don't love that term. I think Brown, bit of a beneficiary playing on the Edmonton Oilers in that sense, but I think there is still a good player in there. I just don't know if 4-year term is something I would have loved. So 5 out of 10 for me.
100%. Also getting Jack Hughes back after, like you mentioned, Jack Hughes and also like losing Jake Markstrom for a big stretch of the season did not help them either. I'm expecting a bit more of a bounce back from them. I mean, it's not like they missed the playoffs last year. Like they made the playoffs, but it was almost like as if they just never did. They went in and out so quick.
They limped in.
Yeah, basically. So I don't know if they're gonna limp in once again. They may, they might not. I have no clue. But at the very least, getting Jack Hughes back to start the season is, I guess, as good as any moves that maybe you could have had. But I think you're probably right, though. They do look like another team that's going to look to make a move within the first few weeks of the season, depending on how their season starts, right? Like, if they start off not so hot, could you see them maybe rushing into a move?
Yeah, because I can see them being impatient because they should be where Carolina is, right? Like that, and that's who they lost to in the playoffs. Like they are a team that's been on the up and up and up and up, and the up needs to come, right? Yeah. So I could see a little bit of impatience there.
Yeah, and also on the Connor Brown deal, would have loved if the Leafs brought him back, but definitely not for 4 years for a guy who's missed almost 2 full years in the past through injury as well. There is a lot of risk in signing. There's a bit of a risk in signing him for 4 years at $3 million per. Don't hate the number. Don't like the term.
Yeah. Agree.
Another another thing to mention, maybe they were ones that it kind of seems like they're looking in at Quinn Hughes playing on the West Coast right now. There was talk about them trying to potentially reunite the three brothers all together, and it makes the most sense for. I think it was it not Jim Rutherford that was talking about reuniting the Quinn Hughes brothers? Like,
I can't remember the exact quote because Jim Rutherford put so much out there, but he said something that he just shouldn't have said. Like, he just needs to shut his mouth. But we'll get to Vancouver next week. But yeah, I guess for the New Jersey side of things, like, they've got their own Hughes brother to sign still. Luke Hughes is still up for a deal, I believe, or he's either up or he's extension out. No, he's an RFA, so he needs to get a deal this summer. Yeah, so we'll see what that number is. And then, yeah, I think Quinn Hughes stuff will be much more down the line. I think Vancouver, while we're on the topic, they did a good job keeping some of his bros around. They retained a lot of familiar faces, and maybe that helps Quinn Hughes stay in Vancouver. But yeah, if you're a New Jersey fan, you're doing those hopes and prayers for Quinn Hughes every night. It'd be so cool to have three elite brothers on the same team. Like, this isn't just like who knows who. These guys are all incredibly good.
100%. Let's go to Long Island now. The Isles, apart from sending Noah Dobson in a sign and trade to Montreal for Emil Heineman and 2 first-round picks, which became, Eklund, is Victor Eklund and
Victor Eklund and Kayshawn
Aitchison. They also made some signings. They re-signed Alex Romanov at 8 years by $6.25 per, bringing back Kyle Palmieri for another 2 years at $4.7 per season. Simon Holmstrom, 2 years, $3.6 mil. Tony DeAngelo re-upping as well, 1 year, $1.75 mil. And also bringing in the likes of Jonathan Drouin at 2 years, $4 million. Emil Heineman got an extension in Long Island for 2 more years at 1.1, and also bringing in David Rittich at 1 year, $1.1 million as well. So,
did you mention I had to? Do you have Maxim Shabanov here? This is the Russian crown jewel.
The next Russian crown jewel, because they got
Islanders have.
Siplikov
Yeah, exactly.
last year.
This one every year. It was Siplikov. Yeah, exactly. So they're getting a reputation now. This is becoming the spot. Once upon a time, the Leafs were the spot. Kovkov, Nikita Zaitsev, Igor Ozhiganov, Leo Mikheyev, Kirill Semyonov. I'm forgetting some other guys. Barabanov. Right? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So many guys. Islanders are becoming that team, it feels like. And, they've got some incumbents in Sorokin, Varlamov, Romanov, as we mentioned, too. So it's a good feather in the cap for the Islanders to be that destination. It's not a bad thing at all. Got to mention, too, this might be one of the biggest ads of the offseason. Got to think he's in the lineup for the start of the year. Matthew Schaefer on the blue line.
Yeah.
So that'll really help lessen the blow of losing Noah Dobson. Caleb Ritchie, another guy in the system when they got from Colorado in that Brock Nelson deal. He got into games for Colorado last year. I think it's a good bet that he gets into games for the Islanders. I think it was a good start to Matthew Darsh's tenure in Long Island. I think they didn't do anything too crazy. The Romanov number, maybe it's a little high, but I don't think that's a bad bet. He's 25 years old. You don't want him to be necessarily a 1 or a 2. You want him on your second line. You want him as a shutdown guy. He's got some big hits in him. I can get behind it. And then I just think they got younger, and that's something that they've been needing for forever, not just in the front office, but on the ice as well. I'm gonna give them an 8 out of 10. I think things are looking up. I don't really think they're a playoff team, but you're starting to see a turning of the leaf in Long Island as far as age is concerned, and there's going to be some pieces there that should be there for the long haul. So I'm digging it.
100%. Considering after, I think their top prospect before like the last couple of years was like William Dufour, and he wasn't really projecting to be much of like he was like the great promise for them, and kind of started flaming out a little bit more.
Bad promise, yeah.
Yeah, I think getting guys like Isaiah George, Victor Ekland, Keyshawn Aitchison, and even acquiring somebody like Callum Ritchie, winning the lottery and getting Matthew Schaefer, just like those 5 guys over the next 3 years, I think it makes their farm system look so much better than it has in years past. So I'm probably going to...
I do want to mention as well, I should have... Sorry, you can give your grade. This is actually outside of the grade, right?
I was just going to finish off with like 7.5 for me.
7.5, yeah. I think that's fair. Puckpedia has this feature where they look at a team's draft picks for the next 3 years and they give it a total pick value. It's based off of, I should have pulled this up. They've got a little like blurb where they say like, here's how we came up with this number. It's based off of a guy who used to work in an NHL front office. I forget where, but check into it. It's really cool. The Islanders' pick value is one of the highest that I came across when we were putting together our notes here. And I think it's just because they have basically all their picks in 2027 and 2028. And next year, they've got 2 firsts. So this is the thing, is their roster is more in flux than I would say rebuilding. Because when you have guys like Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal, you're not really rebuilding. But they have a rebuilder's cabinet worth of draft picks. So that's a good spot to be in. So just wanted to mention that as well, that Darce has got a lot to work with going forward.
We have heard Matt Barzal, his name in trade talks recently. How palatable does that look for, say, the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, like I'm waiting to hear that from like one of the guys, like the insiders, because I think we've heard that from guys who. This happens every year. You have people who say the draft is going to be crazy, and then it's not. Free agency is going to be crazy. It was most definitely not this year. The trades in the summer are going to be crazy. Well, shame on me if I believe you the 3rd time. So I'm going to wait to hear it from someone else. I'm not naming names because it's multiple people. Mm-hmm. And this happens every year. And I think for whatever reason, Matt Barzal's name became the target this year. I'd be all over Matt Barzal, not just as a Leaf follower, but just anyone around the league should be all over Matt Barzal, 100%. Right? Like, yeah, but that's like until he's available, I'm not even, once again, can't even imagine him in a jersey, not even doing it yet.
Seems more like a hope and a dream rather than something that's going to come to fruition anytime soon.
Yeah.
So we'll stick in the state of New York. We'll head to the Big Apple, Madison Square Garden. The New York Rangers, they have done quite a bit this offseason as well, like their neighbors on Long Island, signing Vladislav Gavrikov. They won the sweepstakes for him, signing him to 7 years at $7 million per season. And also re-upping guys like Will Cooley. They got rid of Keandre Miller, like we said before, and we really like the deal that on New York's side of things. Will Cooley also.
Chris Kreider deal happened earlier in the summer.
Yeah, they got that big bit of business done pretty early. The Will Cooley deal, 2 years, $3.9 million per season. Bringing in Taylor Radish and Juuso Parssinen, both on 2-year deals, both one of them at 1.5, Taylor Radish, and Juuso Parssinen $1.2 million per year. They also re-up Matt Rempe for another 2 years as well at $975 per year. You have any thoughts on what Chris Drury is doing right now in New York?
First off, not a big Chris Drury fan from what we've seen. Not just this year, but even going back the year before with like the Barclay Gaudreau stuff. He's a pretty cold dude. So we got to see if he's a cold-blooded killer and if he can really turn it into a winner, because then you can erase my concerns. But this year, and this isn't really how you should look at things, but I'm looking at it as they turned Keandre Miller and his potential contract of 7.5 into Gavrikov at 7, plus the return for Miller, which is Morrow the first and second. So when I look at it that way, it looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. It does look pretty good. They have a blue line now of Gavrikov, Fox, Braden Schneider, Scott Morrow, Carson Soucy, William Morgan. And for a team that let go of Lindgren and Trouba at the deadline last year, before the deadline, I can start to see a vision there. Like, it doesn't look as bad for a team that lost two big names off of their blue line. It's work in progress up front still without Kreider. Bring in JT Miller. Gabe Perreault is someone who's maybe got to show that he can be in a top six. There's something here. They can maybe get back in the playoff mix, but they're not contender status, I would say. So, yeah, for what they had this past year in terms of an awful season vibes-wise, vibes are back on the right course. At least they should be, everyone being on the same page on this roster. Mike Sullivan at head coach, I think that also is a huge upgrade, right?
Yeah,
off of
100%.
Peter Laviolette. So, I can't complain too much here. I'm going to give 7 out of 10 because it wasn't crazy. You know what? Maybe I'll go 8 out of 10 here because, you know what? They made two big moves, and I like them both. So I'm going to go 8 out of 10.
Fair enough. I'm going to stick with a 7, but I do really like the Vladislav Gavrikov move, especially if you staple him to Adam Fox as well. I think that's where the value for money comes in, is if Vlad is able to help Adam Fox get back to his Norris level winning ways. I think then your value combined on the two of them just goes up so much. But other than that, I don't see much, especially I think just considering where the Metro division is. I think you have three teams that are almost locked up for the top three, and I think it's going to be so tough to get one of the other Atlantic teams that don't make the top three out of the wild card spots. I'm not too sure. The Rangers might be a team that's pushing for one of those playoff spots, and I think again they're going to kind of come up short. But I also don't think that the vibes 100% should hopefully be different than what they were last year. If last year hopefully was rock bottom, maybe they can start building something and going forward again.
Their wild card in this is, out of all the teams that are in that wild card mix, if that's where they are, Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie when he's at his peak.
100%.
So if they can defend better in front of him under Mike Sullivan, that's the ace in their hand here, right?
The silver lining,
that's
for sure.
That's what they can bet on.
We'll head to Pennsylvania now. We're going to kind of end in, I guess we have a couple more teams after this, but we're going to stay in Pennsylvania over the next two picks. We'll start with Philadelphia right now. They re-up guys like Noah Cates at 4 years by $4 million per season. Tyson Forster, 2 years at $3.75 per year. They gave Christian Dvorak 1 year at $5.4 million. Nice little chunk of change for Christian Dvorak. And also Dan Vladar, 2 years at $3.35 million. Oof, quite a bit of money for the two of them. Also bringing Noah Juleson and Dennis Gilbert in on 1 year deals at under $1 million for both of them. They also made a big deal. Did we touch on the Trevor Zegras deal at all?
You know what? Because it came at the draft, I think we touched on it, but we couldn't really get into it. But yeah, Ryan Poehling, a second and fourth, goes to Anaheim. Trevor Zegras to Philly. He's in the last year of a $5.75 million deal. He'll be an RFA after this. It feels like that is definitely a highlight of their offseason. And it's a really good bet by the Philadelphia Flyers.
100%.
For not a lot of money. Like, Ryan Poehling is 26 years old. He's a bottom sixer. A second and fourth is not a lot to pay on the whole for Trevor Zegras, even coming off of a year where I think he still had 40 to 50 points. Like, it wasn't nothing. He's not, like, if this is his bottom end for value and he just does 40 to 50 points again this year, you still have control for him. Like, it's not even bad in that sense if that's what you paid for a 50-point player. And the upside, was huge because we're expecting so much more than 50 points out of him. We're looking at a point-per-game guy if he can really get back to what made him so great the first couple years in Anaheim. So, we'll see if like the match is great with Rick Tocchet. We'll see if the match is great in terms of line mates. Is he going to play with Matvei Michkov at some points here? That could be very, very exciting. So yeah, like it wasn't a crazy offseason other than that. Like the Dvorak number is definitely high, like on a 1 year deal. Like it's surprising he got 5.4. They still got 5.5 left in cap space, so maybe they can do something else. I don't mind the season that the offseason Danny Briere had, and probably the other highlight is Porter Martone at 6. Maybe a guy that they didn't totally expect to be there. Right-handed, maybe he's there in the opening lineup. If not, I think he can definitely get seasoned elsewhere, maybe college. That's some of the talk right now. I'm giving them an 8 out of 10. Not a lot, but what they did do, I like.
I will say though, we did forget to mention I do have it in my notes, but a lot of that money did just get eaten up.
Oh yeah,
5 years, $5.15 million for Cam York. So a lot of that $5 million that they had in space
basically at the cap now
goes right to Mr. Cam York. I'm not a big fan of that deal, but I guess I don't know. Now that I realize that they are spending to the cap, I think I like the deal just a little bit less than that. I'll probably end up with like a 6 out of 10 for their offseason. Maybe I'll stick with 6. But we'll see what they've got going for them. I do really like the Porter Martone pick for them. I think we mentioned that before.
It's a great fit.
Also, guys in the system, they still got like Jet Luchenko and Denver Barkey and Jack Nesbitt as well, who maybe could make impacts, maybe not this year, but in the near future, that's for sure. As we hop across the state of Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh, where the Pittsburgh Penguins have brought in Justin Brazeau for 2 years at $1.5 million, Anthony Mantha for 1 year at $2.5 million, Parker Witherspoon 2 years, $1 million, Caleb Jones 2 years, $900,000. They are bringing back Philip Tomasino 1 year, $1.75 million, and Connor Dewar, the Dew Man, 1 year, $1.1 million. They also made a couple of deals as well. They've sent Alec Nedeljkovic to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for a 2028 third-round pick. They were also a part of that deal, which saw them acquire Connor Clifton and a 2025 second-rounder from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Isaac Beliveau and Connor Timmins. Christian, Kyle Dubas cooking, or is he still stuck making grilled cheeses right now? They do have $15 million in
He hasn't even got out of bed yet.
Yeah. Not great.
15 mil. Like, we're expecting a lot more, like, on the Erik Karlsson front, maybe Brian Rust, Rickard Rakell. So there's definitely a unfinished product here. And unfinished in the sense that, we kind of expect them to get worse. We expect them to go right to rock bottom this year. The signings they did make, there's not too much to touch on there. I like Brazeau. He obviously has a relationship there, having brought him into the Leafs organization back in the day. Mm-hmm. And then I like getting a second for Connor Clifton's last year of a deal. We mentioned that already. Nedeljkovic for a third. It's all right work. And Cal Dubas did a lot of his trading back stuff in the draft. So it's not a lot here to look at. Give him a 6 out of 10. Didn't make any mistakes yet.
100%. I look at this Pittsburgh Penguins team as being a team maybe you want to look at trying to make a deal in season. Like we mentioned it before, Rickard Rakell would look mighty fine playing in a top 6.
Really good.
Playing in a top 6 role with the Leafs. Nice little right-handed shot. Even Brian Rust as well. I wouldn't mind either of them, Brad, but we'll see what Kyle Dubas wants to do with those two guys in particular. And also, I guess even the likes of Evgeny Malkin, who's already been handed his walking orders. He will I think, out of everybody on the team, is most likely to be on the move, right? Last year of his deal, probably looking to bolster a team to try to win another Stanley Cup. How crazy would it be if he ends up like in Florida, like just something ridiculous like
Oh
that?
God!
I don't even want to think about it, but yeah, I
Imagine
mean,
Brad Marchand, Evgeny Malkin. Oh no!
yeah, I don't want to imagine.
Why do we do this?
I'd rather hate myself.
Bad thought exercise.
Bad thought exercise, 100%. Yeah, so I'm looking at them to maybe make a couple of moves, probably swings, not for the fences, but swings for the future for sure. I think if anybody needs a first overall pick, it's probably the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got to give yourself as good of a chance to land Gavin McKenna. I think if I'm thinking of teams that should probably bottom out at this exact moment, Pittsburgh is top of my list to try to land a talent like Gavin McKenna. So, do I want to mention, like, they just got Bill Zonin in the draft. They have guys like Valtteri Puustinen and Ville
Bill Zonin,
Koivunen.
Ben Kindle, I think was at 12.
Ben Kindle was their first rounder.
A lot of Finnish dudes, eh?
I mean, I'm not surprised.
A lot of Finnish dudes.
Not surprised.
Owen Pickering on the blue line.
Considering Kyle Dubas and what's the scout that what's the scout's name? Wes
Topi
Clark.
and Roni.
It was Wes Clark that he brought over, right?
Yes, Wes Clark. Yeah.
Yeah, they do like their
Yeah.
Finnish boys, Topi, Roni. Now they got Valtteri and Ville in Pittsburgh, so
there you go.
They could have a lot of fun with them, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll end off in the capital of the United States, Washington Capitals. They, I would say, had a bit of a quiet offseason, especially last offseason where they swung for the fences and they were hitting home run after home run after home run, even things that we didn't think were going to be home runs, like the Pierre-Luc Dubois deal. I thought it worked out so well for them.
We loved. I remember us we loved everything but that.
Yeah, and I think that one also really worked out for them. But this year, a bit more quiet. But they did give out a lot of money to Martin Feravari for 7 years at $6 million per. They gave out some money to Nick Dowd at 2 years, $3 million per season, and Anthony Beauvillier at 2 years, $2.75 million. Also signing Justin Sourdif, like we mentioned before in our Florida Panthers recap, to 2 years at $8.25 per. I believe that is league minimum, $8.25.
So the Sourdif deal, let's start there because I said I wanted to mention something when we got to Washington's side of it. Washington and Florida are probably two of the teams who have made really smart bets thanks to their pro scouting, right? So it's like scouting in the NHL, other teams, not prospect scouting. And we talked about what Washington did last year. You got to credit a lot of that to their staff in that sense, getting Matt Roy on a great deal, the Mangiapane trade, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jacob Chikrin they traded for, all smart bets. And a lot of them look like that kind of instantly. That's why they were one of the winners of the offseason before we even saw the product on ice. So on one hand, I want to trust Washington's keen eye for talent and targeting Justin Sourdif. But on the other side, Florida is probably the other team that I'm putting right up there with the Capitals, who have a great eye for talent at the pro level. And it almost makes you weary, if Florida's saying we don't want this guy, what does that say? So, the Tampa Bay Rays in baseball are that team, right? They just know they can find guys out of nowhere. So I just don't know, because you have Washington and Florida here, both teams I give that reputation to, and I don't know who's to trust here. I don't know.
I mean,
so we'll see if Washington, if they put him in a spot to succeed, then maybe it works out for them.
But even there too, where does Justin Sourdif come in? Especially the Hershey Bears as well. As for the AHL, they've been awesome over the past few years. They've won the Calder Cup, Calder Championship? I believe it was last season. I don't really see a fit right now for Justin Sourdif. Right now they've got him playing on the bottom line, but I don't know if that's really where you want a guy like him.
This Puckpedia depth chart has Miroshnichenko penciled in on the third line left wing. Mind you, see, he's a right winger, so it's like, are you going to put him at left wing 3C? Probably, or third line? Probably not. You're right. Like, it's not. I don't see the fit yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is where my question marks come from here.
Yeah. But I think honestly though, at the end
I'm
of
giving them
sorry, you could go right
yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to go to my grade, but what do you got?
Oh no, I was gonna say if that deal is a slight misstep, they also have guys like Andrew Cristal, Ilya Protas, and Cole Hudson. I think three. I would go as far as to say like blue chip prospects as well in the system as well that they can bring up, as well as the likes of like Ivan Miroshnichenko as well, Ryan Leonard getting his first taste of NHL action at the end of last season. He's going to probably get a full year this season. I think even if this trade does blow up in their face, I don't think it's as as seismic of proportions. It just does make you question what the thought process was. But on that note, what would you give for the Washington Capitals offseason?
Yeah, I mean, because they just kept a lot of internal stuff. We know they were in on Ehlers and couldn't swing that. They've still got $4 million cap space. I don't mind the Fairvary number. It's kind of similar to what we talked about with Romanov. He's only 25, so 6 is a fine number for him. Beauvillier is okay. 5 out of 10 for me.
I'm gonna go with a 6. Same thing on there. I don't hate it, don't love it. Probably a little bit more on the liking it side. I think just because they have just so much that they can do, and they have a lot more promise, I think, than some other teams on this list. And maybe not.
You've convinced me, Dave. I'm giving them a 6.
Not doing things for the sake of doing things might be better for some teams than rushing into making rash decisions and spending your money. So I think for them, maybe not signing Nick Ehlers is potentially for the best for them. So yeah, I don't hate it, don't love it, but it's a 6 at the end of the day.
I can see that.
And that's going to wrap up the Eastern Conference recap of the beginning of free agency. Like we mentioned before, these are all subject to change. We got the Cam York announcement signing just before we even started recording. So stuff could happen over the next week, but we will keep you posted. And if you want to keep posted, please don't forget to subscribe to the Second Look Sports channel. Give this video a like. Share this video with all your friends. Keep an eye for other content coming in the next few weeks. And also, please give a follow to all of our socials, which you can find in our description. On that note, I think we can sign off for this week. We'll see you back here next week for the Western Conference recap.